Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be teaching you guys how to switch from the default mannequin from Unreal Engine to your own custom character. So let's get started. It's going to be pretty easy and beginner friendly. Before we start, I want to say I've been working on my dream game for about half a year making devlogs, and I finally released my own Steam page. So far you can wish list if it sounds interesting, and so far we're at 9. Let's see if we can break even and get 10 wish lists. Anyways, the first thing we want to do is go to Mixamo, which is a website where you can get free characters and animations. If you want to get your own character from Sketchfab or something like that, you can do that as well. But let's go scroll around for our own character until we find the one we want. And I know which one I want, right? It's going to be, for me, you can use whatever character you want. I'm going to use this guy right here. Looks pretty cool. And the first thing we need to do is download the actual model and download it as a T-pose. Next up, go to your animations, and we're of course going to need an idle animation, so just look up idle and pick whichever idle animation you like. I'll just go for this one, pretty simple. And then it's important that you put without skin, because if you download with the skin, it's just going to export the model with it, and we already have the model. Next up, we need a walking animation. Use one like this. Make sure you put in place so that it stays like this. And then 2 more animations. The next one we need is a running animation. You can use whichever one you want. I like to use this one right here. Click in place, because you do not want the animations to be moving forward, because the character will already be moving as he's doing this. So right guys, I got logged out, but so far we have the running animation, the idle animation, and the walking animation. The last thing we need is a jumping animation. Now we could use a jumping animation like this, for example. Well, not that one, like this. However, it can look kind of slow and annoying in the game. So what I like to use is just use a falling animation, and it actually will look like they are falling. So look up fall, A, loop. And it's gonna look like the jumping once you play it, once they're in there, just like this one right here. And then download without skin. And so once you got all your characters and animations downloaded, the next step is to open your Unreal Engine project. Okay, so once you download the character, the next step is to import your character. So what we could do is make a new folder. I'm just gonna call this custom character. And then inside of here, we need to import the mesh first. So I like to make a separate folder for that. Just call it mesh. And a mesh is just a model. And then inside of here, open up the downloads right here. And first thing you want to do not import the animations with it. Import the character by itself first. So take the model right here and just drag it in. Now, let it be default as skeleton. It's going to look empty. That's okay. It's going to create a skeleton for it. And just click import all, and then click X on here, and then you can open this one up here to test out what the model looks like. And it has to prepare the shaders right here, so that's why it's gray, so it might take a little bit. Okay, as you can see, imported the character pretty well right here, looking pretty nice. Now the next thing we need to do is get the animations. So right click new folder, I'm going to call this animations, and we need to import these animations in. So this is when you import the animations, not the character, only the animations. I like to put them all in at once and just drag them all in, and then make sure you set it to the skeleton that you created. So right here is the skeleton for my character, and click import all. And then make sure that these actually work. We got the idle animation, got walking, okay, and then we got the jumping animation, so that all works. Now the next step is going to be creating an animation blend space, which I'll get to in a second. Alright, so to create the animation blend space, what we want to do is just right click, and then on this tab here you'll see the animation part, and then you want to go to the right, and right here you will see animation blend space around right here. Do not do 1D, do blend space, and then select the skeleton of your character. I'm just going to call this character blend space, so character under BS for a blend space, and then you just open this up right here. So what is a blend space? Basically a blend space is going to tell it to switch in between different animations based off a variable. So for example, for here what we would do is switch in between the idle to the walking animation to the running animation based off of the speed. And one thing I forgot to do really quick, I have to import the running animation because I forgot to do that. Right here. Oh, 1 second, I forgot to download the running animation. Sorry about that. So on here, I guess it didn't download. Just look up running. Find one like here. Click in place, very important. Download without scan. Sorry about that. Okay, so it's downloading right now. Should be right here, and then just drag this in. And make sure it's with the correct skeleton. Click import all. Okay, we got the running animation, good. Now open the animation blend space, and then what we want to do is start with the idle. But first we got to define these variables right here, the horizontal axis and the vertical. So the horizontal axis is basically the direction, like from, it's kind of hard to explain, but they're just basically the direction that the character is facing. So we'll just call this direction. And direction is not required, but it will go for smoother movement. The minimum axis you want to do negative 180. And then the maximum you want to do 180. And then click snap to grid so that when we put the animations on here, it snaps to the grid correctly. And then I like to put for smoothing time, I like to do 0.1. And basically smoothing time is how smooth it'll transition between the animations. And then for the vertical axis, name it speed. The minimum will be 0 and the maximum will be, let's say like 600. Whatever you want the speed of your character to be. And then click snap to grid, and then smoothing time will do 0.1 again. Now we need to take the idle animation and drag it to the bottom, right here, as you can see it's blank. And then we need the walking around right here. So if you hold control, it's gonna go from idle to walking as you move the cursor. And then we need the running all the way at the top. And hopefully it'll be a smooth transition between walking and running, as you can see right here. And then click save. So the next step is to create the animation blueprint, which I'll get to in a second. Okay, so to create the animation blueprint, just right click, go to animation again, and you'll see right here, animation blueprint. And then select the skeleton again. I'm just gonna name this character. Oh my gosh, I can't spell. Character underscore anim BP. And then double click on there. So basically an animation blueprint is going to tell when to play certain animations. So on here, this can tell when we want to activate the blend space or not. It'll make more sense as we go. So right click and type in new state machine. Basically the state machine is going to have all the different animations that it can play, and we want to put it inside here. Now this might not make a lot of sense, but this will make more sense the more you do it, so just bear with me here. And then in the output pose, it's just once we put the new state machine in there, it's going to basically be playing the new state machine once it's compiled. But we do need to name this. I'm just gonna call it local motion, which basically means movement. Now it does say state machine is not connected to state. It's because if you go inside the state machine right here, we need to add something. So what we can do is click right click, add state right here, and just name this something like idle. And then you want to drag the entry into here, right there, sorry, right there. Okay, so basically what it's gonna do, once it starts, the first thing we want to do is idle, but we need to define the state. So to define the state, link it with the animation. So I'm gonna put idle animation in there. As you can see right here, if we click compile, it's going to animate. Now we also need to have the blend space so that I can do the running animation and the walking animation. So get your blend space right here, just drag it in. I'm gonna rename this to movement. Okay, now what we want to do is drag this into here and drag it back. So these are our transitions right here. So to transition from idling to movement, we want to have a certain amount of speed. But before we get there, go on to the state, and it's asking for our direction and speed. So right click on direction, and you can promote it to a variable. Now basically, to go from idling to movement, we want the speed to be greater than 0 so that we know that we're moving. And then from movement to idle, speed needs to equal 0, so we know that we're not moving anymore. So that's how we transition in between the two. So from idle to movement, what we want to do is drag in our speed variable, get speed, and then basically type in here greater than. And if it's greater than 0, that means we're moving, and we switch to the blend space. Now on to movement to idle, get our speed, and we want to see if it's equal this time. If it's equal to 0, that means that we're not moving. And if we click compile, right there it's fine. However, how is it going to know what the speed variable actually means? We need to define the speed variable. So you go into the event graph, and this is where you start doing the actual code. And then right here it says blueprint update animation. This is where it starts putting the code. What we want to do is get an is valid. And the reason we do this is because we want to make sure that the actual player exists in the world before we start running this code. And if it is valid, what we want to do is set our speed variable. But before we get to that, off of this get pawn owner, it's accessing the player blueprint, and from here we can get their velocity. Now from here we can set the speed. However, we cannot set the velocity to the speed because they're different variables. This is a float and this is a vector. So in order to make it work, what we need to do is get the float. So you could do length, type in length, and get vector length. And this basically converts it to a float, and now we can set the speed right there. But how do we set the direction? What we do from the get pawn owner is look up get actor rotation right here, because the direction is just the rotation you're facing. And from here we need to calculate the direction. So type up calculate direction, and it also needs the base rotation, but it also needs the velocity right here. You just plug it in, and from here we can set the speed. And then right here we got it right there. And then if we compile, basically now what it's going to do is it's defining the speed and direction, and from that it's going to use the speed to transition from idling to movement. So we can test this out right now actually. So what we want to do is go to the third person character, open up the third person character, go to viewport, and first we need to actually change the model of the player to the model that we want. So just select the one you want, and next thing we want to do is where it says animation class, it's looking for an animation blueprint. Just plug in the one that you created. So mine is called character animation blueprint right here. And then if you click compile, you can see it has animations now. So let's see what happens if we click play. As you can see, we're idling, and unfortunately for some reason it's not letting the character move. So let me find what that is and I'll get right back to you. Found the issue. As you can see right here, I got it to work, but how did I do that? Well, I made a stupid mistake, as you can see in the character animation blueprint. Originally what it did is, for some reason from calculate direction, I said set speed instead of set direction right here. And so basically instead of getting direction, it was getting the speed. So we want to do is set direction, and then from that plug it in like this, and this should look a bit like this. A big part of game development is debugging, so it's really important to have the skill and find what the problem is and fix it. Now if I click play right here, as you can see we can idle and then we can move around. Now only problem is there's no jumping animation. So in order to make a jumping animation, we need to know when the player is actually falling in air, and from there we can play an animation. So inside the event graph, what we want to do next is the pawn owner right here, the player. We drag down here and we check is falling. Well, first we need the character movement. No, sorry. Before we even do that, we need to actually cast to the character. So we type cast to player, no, BP underscore third person character. That's the name of the third person character. However, whatever the name of your character is, just name it to that. And then from here, what we want to do is get character movement. Now, sorry, we just want the character movement variable right here. And then from here, see if we are falling. And out of here, you can see it has a boolean, and that's a true or false statement. So hold B and left click for a branch. This is basically a check. Are we falling? And if we are falling, then we want to play the jumping animation. So off of true, what we can do is actually create a new variable, call this jump. And if we are falling, we want to set jumping to true. However, we actually don't need a branch. We can just connect this into here because it will set jump to true if this is true, and set jump to false if this is false. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And then attach this. Now we need somewhere to connect to the third person character. I like to create a sequence node right here. The sequence will just organize it so it'll tell one thing to do at a time. So first thing we do is get the speed and direction. Then off of here, then 1. The second thing we do is cast a third person character, get the is falling, and if we are falling, set the jump variable. And then in here, what we need to do is add another state and just call this jump. And then inside of here, we need to add the jumping animation. And then to tell if we are jumping, first we got to create the actual state, the transitions right here. So it'll create the transitions for all these animations. It should look kind of like a web. And then from idling to jumping, we just want to drag in our jumping variable to see if we're jumping. And then from movement to jumping, do the exact same thing. And then to see if we're going to go from jumping to idling, we want to make sure that we're not jumping. So what you can do is grab this variable right here, the jumping variable, and then type not bool. Get the not boolean, and then so if jumping is not true, you go back to idle, and same thing for movement. If jumping is not true, then we should go back to movement. Hope this makes sense. If you guys have any questions, you can let me know in the comments. Click compile and save, and hopefully this should be everything. So if we click play, let's test this out. If we jump, we play an animation. So yeah, that's a tutorial, and here, as you can see right now, we can move around, we can jump, and I hope you guys liked the tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know. Game development can be hard, but I'm here to help you guys out, and it's always important to be able to find issues and solve these issues, because game development is like solving a puzzle. So I hope you guys like this. In this tutorial, I taught you guys how to create your own custom character, and this can be applied for any model or animation. Alright, see you guys. Hey guys, I just want to remind you guys, I'm working on my dream game, Kira Legends. If you want to, feel free to wishlist. And even if you don't like the game and you don't want to buy it, no worries. Wishlisting is completely free, and not only does it help me out, but if we get to 50 wishlists, I'll make you guys whatever tutorial you guys want to see. So it's a win-win situation. Even if you don't want to click the wishlist button, I just appreciate you guys for watching my video and supporting me. So far we are at 9 wishlists, and let's see if we can get even more. So thank you guys for watching. I hope this tutorial helped you guys, and if it didn't, let me know what questions you guys have or recommendations for future videos. Alright guys, see you later.